organization forward in keeping with the dynamism of the various professional areas we regulate. As regulators of the private real estate industry in Jamaica, we have an obligation to ensure that the sector operates at an optimal level to the satisfaction of all parties. The board is in continuous process of reviewing and assessment to ensure that we are meeting our objectives and best serving you, our clients, and the public. To this end, there are a number of developments that we will be using this forum to provide an update. More importantly, we'll be providing some timely and important reminders to ensure that you are able to operate efficiently and effectively within the confines of the law. One of the major things we have done, which would not be evident from the outside looking in, is that we have realigned the organization to better serve you. Through the realignment and addition of key members of staff, including the position of Chief Operations Officer, Mr. Cresford Brown, and other key administrative posts, we also anticipate the addition of key members of staff in the immediate to medium term. If you have visited our offices recently, you'll also notice that our customer service staff complement has been bolstered, so we can process your transaction faster and have you on your way in as short a time as is practical. The reorganization extends to all arms of the organization, including the Real Estate Institute, where we are currently in the process of reviewing and reworking the pre-licensing courses to ensure that persons who are ultimately registered are able to better meet the needs of the public. We have also installed a new senior director, principal, for the Real Estate Training Institute to drive the process of reorganization of the Training Institute as the academic hub for real estate education, not only in Jamaica, but in the Caribbean. Finally, in the interest of time, and to give the opportunity to our other speakers adequate time to go into greater details about some of the changes, I'll close here and encourage you to listen keenly and speak freely. Thank you once again. Do enjoy the session.
Thank you very much, Mr. James. I had failed to introduce a new member, well, not a new member, but a new position, which now exists within the Real Estate Board. And he is not a stranger to any of us. And it is our very own Mr. Cresford Brown, who is now the Chief Operations Officer for the Real Estate Board. All right, so later on, you will get an opportunity to interact with him as he addresses some issues that may be posed his way. So thanks again, Mr. James. I will now invite our newly minted CEO, Mr. Phillip Chambers, to address you at this time. So Mr. Chambers has been our Chief Executive Officer for the Real Estate Board since January of 2023, as the chairman had outlined. He has a wealth of experience in the areas of general, project, and personal management within the maritime, aviation, and petroleum services. Which he acquired during his tenure as general manager of the Jamaica Aircraft Refueling Services Limited. I trust that I had said that correctly. He also has significant experience in government regulation and licensing, having served as Senior Director of Operations, Deputy CEO of the Cannabis Licensing Authority from 2021 to December 2022. He holds MSc in International Public and Development Management and a BSc in General Management from the University of the West Indies, Mona. Mr. Phillip Chambers, we welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Our moderator, Mr. Ainsworth Norton, Chairman of the Real Estate Board, Mr. Andrew James, our main presenter, Mr. Akeil Pladley, inspectors of the Real Estate Board, other board members, directors, and members of staff. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I want to thank you wholeheartedly for taking the time to register and attend this morning's session. This to me is a clear indication that you are willing and open to listening and sharing, which allows both sides to learn from each other. Before I begin, I want to thank the chairman, Mr. Andrew James, for his vote of confidence in his opening remarks, and by extension, the board at large. I also want to thank my entire team for the support and encouragement they have given me in my brief time at the real estate board. It has given me much confidence that we will be able to achieve meaningful change and growth working together for the good of the industry. I hope in opposition to the statement, the following statement will be in the extreme minority, if not non-existent, when I say that this organization is one that punches above its weight, given the size of its various groups that it regulates relative to the staff complement. On my first day, I articulated a vision for the organization to my management team, which I would like to share with you today. And the vision is working collaboratively to achieve organizational excellence through continuous process reviews and updates. This forum, which is one of 3, with various clients and professional groups we serve, is a small but significant part of that collaborative approach. Organizational excellence, as I expressed then, will continue to be a goal of this entity, to be the very best version of ourselves in spite of the human resource challenges we face. It is also an example of the kind of open and transparent communication we intend to practice. In furtherance of that principle, we will be launching a new merged website very soon, which will bring together the information from the Real Estate Board, the Commissioner Strata Corporation, as well as the Real Estate Training Institute. In addition, we will be putting out much information as possible via social media, and we invite you to follow us on the various platforms. Additionally, we continue to use our mass email platform to send timely reminders regarding CPD courses, AML updates, deadlines, and a host of relevant information. We will also be launching a customer satisfaction survey very shortly to solicit your feedback across our various service areas. Some of you may also be contacted via phone by the Consumer Affairs Commission for additional information. I want to encourage you to share honestly and openly. As I'm asking you to do today, we can only improve if we know what the gaps are. And those gaps are not always self-evident, but may differ based on one's perspective. This will not be the last of such sessions, but we will continue to use this medium intermittently as the need arises. Our chairman briefly mentioned some of the human resource adjustments we have made recently with regards to improving our service. I would add, we have reclassified some positions, including the managers of both inspectorate. We have added key posts such as a human resource manager, and split our facilities and procurement managers function. We will also be recruiting for additional inspectors, with some of these to be assigned to shared communities with the pending responsibilities for gated communities island-wide. While some of these services are purely internal, their impact will ripple through the service delivery of the entire organization. There are also physical changes to accommodate the changes. For example, we have expanded and relocated both inspectorates to account for the growing complement of inspectors. The final vision I want to share is one of fairness and objectivity with regard to our processes. We will ensure that our processes are not only known, but carried out consistently without fear or prejudice. This will apply to all areas of service, not just our dispute resolution services. I'm a firm believer in the old adage, with its deep spiritual reference, there is wisdom in the counsel of many. As the hard hats and steel toe boots on the ground, what better counsel is there than those who have made this industry their livelihood? In closing, I want to implore you to take personal responsibility for the reputation of the industry as a whole. As we transition closer to the question and answer portion of our program, thanks once again, and we look forward to your questions and in being able to provide answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Chambers. But now we're going to get into the meat of our session this morning. So I will first invite Dr. Tina Beale, our new and first principal of the Real Estate Training Institute, to update you on changes regarding the Institute. So Dr. Beale is a real estate and planning educator who has served at various levels of academic leadership in the Jamaican higher education sector. She successfully led the academic accreditation of the island's first real estate undergraduate course of study and has co-authored various publications on matters affecting the local real estate and the wider Caribbean region. She has also presented at various international real estate conferences, locally and internationally. Her current interests are real estate investment and appraisal, indigenous planning, indigenous curriculum development, and the performance of economic markets. Like Mr. Chambers, she assumed her position in January of this year. Let's give her our undivided attention. Dr. Beale, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Mr. Norton. So at this time, as Mr. Norton indicated, I will be basically providing an update on what it is that we have been doing thus far with the Real Estate Training Institute, and just to give you an insight as to what it is that you can expect going forward for the remainder of the year. So the presentation outlined this morning, I'll be first starting off with a historical background of the Real Estate Training Institute. I'll give a synopsis of what currently obtains. We are currently en route to transforming the RETI, and so I will give a brief overview of the transformation process thus far and how it is that we are measuring or plan to measure the transformation process. And then I'll give some insights as to the way forward. So as you all may be aware, the RETI was established in February 2016. It was initially conceptualized as a training institute to offer pre-licensing courses for salesmen, dealers, as well as the property management licensing course, the local land law for those persons who are currently registered overseas and want to become practitioners in Jamaica, the poker course, the 20-hour and the 25-hour refresher courses. Now, our pre-licensing course for salesmen, it's offered on a full-time basis, part-time as well in the evening, as well as a day release option that's also provided. Our pre-licensing course for dealers and the property management licensing course, they are both offered on a part-time basis. Currently, the RETI trains approximately 500 individuals each year. Now, what is the current status as to the RETI? Like any other training institution, the COVID-19 pandemic basically pushed us into a position of delivering our courses online. However, for administrative processes, we have a mixture of electronic as well as manual aspects, and we will be moving towards a full online process in the near future. Our student complement consists primarily of Jamaicans, as one would expect. We have staff that's adaptable, courteous, resilient, friendly. Our testing and assessment strategy is currently face-to-face. We also have CPD and our short courses being offered by the RETI as of April 1st. And as I mentioned just a while ago, the RETI is undergoing a period of transformation. Now, what the boundary of transformation entails? We're looking at an improvement to our governance and quality assurance standards. We're looking into curriculum development, how it is that we can engage more closely with our student and industry practitioners. we will be improving our teaching and learning policies, as well as our testing and assessment strategies to make them more aligned with the current climate, educational climate that we are in across Jamaica. Now, there are some key markers for the transformation process. And one of the first main things is that we want to have the RETI established as a higher educational institution. And so in order for us to do that, we have to achieve HEI status, namely with the University Council of Jamaica. But in accordance with that, it's also important that our courses are accredited both locally and internationally, locally with the University Council of Jamaica, as well as internationally with real estate bodies such as the NAR, such as the International CPD Accrediting Agency in the UK, as well as in the long term, we're also having prospects of having our courses with respect to valuations that will be coming on course soon, accredited by the RICS. Now, as I just mentioned, we'll be adding to our suite of courses. We know that based on what is in the Real Estate Dealers and Developers Act, we are to provide courses for all persons engaged in all areas of real estate business. In the short term, we are specifically looking at adding courses for our practitioners who are licensed in the area of appraisal and property management, especially with respect to CPD courses. So our appraisers and our property managers in the short term, that is 3 to 6 months time, you can see a launching of courses that are specifically geared towards improving the quality of standards in appraisals and property management. Now, any entity or any training institution in the 21st century needs to align itself with research connectedness. In Jamaica, and I found this through personal experience and professional experience as well, that in the real estate sector, there is a need for us to be involved with research on what is happening in the market, so that the quality of the products and services provided by our practitioner, so that the level of education and the quality of the educational products that we provide can be improved. The RETI is fully on board with being aligned with research connectedness. And so we are in the process of forming linkages with external bodies to help us to achieve that goal of improving research and scholarly pursuits and outputs on the real estate sector in Jamaica. We also want to be strategic with the provision of what we term as fit for purpose education. So fit for purpose education means that we need to provide courses and training that are contextually relevant for Jamaicans and also for the wider Caribbean, because many of the issues that we face in the real estate sector in Jamaica, it's quite applicable in other small island developing states in the Caribbean region. And so it is important for us to have fit for purpose education, once again, so that our quality assurance and the quality of the services that we provide to the public can improve. In this 21st century, we also need to be sustainable persons. The sector needs to be more sustainable. At the Real Estate Board, we have recognized this. And so we want to have sustainability, resilience, and adaptability embedded in our policies and also in the curriculum that it is that we will be providing in short order. We also want our participants and our practitioners to feel as if they are a part of an industry that welcomes training that reflects equality, diversity, and inclusivity. Persons learn best, persons do better, persons perform better when they feel as if they are in an environment within which they belong, an environment in which their views are important and matter. And so that needs to be reflected in any learning environment in order to ensure that our practitioners and persons who will be coming into the industry will perform at a higher standard than what currently exists. Now, what are some of these markers that we're going to be using to measure the transformational process? First of all, any professional in any industry, you must display professionalism. So we want our participants, we want our practitioners to be persons who are tech savvy, persons who can display professional expertise within the context of sustainability, resilience, and change management within the context of real estate. Adherence to ethics is a must, because without any adherence to ethicality, a profession cannot grow and grow sustainably. We, as a training institute, we know that we are training dealers, and these are individuals, as you would know, who are managing their businesses. So we want to expose you to what are the most suitable and appropriate procurement methods within the real estate sector for you to transcend your business to the next level. We want our practitioners to be able to resolve disputes. We want our practitioners to be aligned with international standards and can apply these international standards in an innovative way in their practices, their real estate practices and businesses. Now we're moving on to performance. In anything, you want to know that what it is that you've set out to do, your targets are in line with what it is you anticipate that you want to do. And so any training that it is that we will be offering, it has to be geared towards ensuring that you are equipped with the skill needed in order for you to achieve your predetermined targets as a real estate practitioner. We also want our offerings to be such that it's cost effective, because we know the kind of economic climate within which that we are operating. We want persons to be able to grow. We want persons to be able to sustain their livelihoods and at the same time improve their educational quality and the quality of the products that they're offering to the public. We want to ensure that we are satisfying our clients, and to this end, in short order, you will be seeing that we'll be doing stakeholder consultations with our real estate practitioners, as well as other entities that we would regard as partner entities, to see how best it is that we can improve the quality of the curriculum for the courses that are being offered and will be offered by the RETI. We want to ensure that ourselves and our practitioners have social impact. Social impact is important because while it is that we understand that the economics of what it is we do must be feasible, we must at a broader scale have an impact on society itself and how it is that we can improve the quality of the real estate industry. We also want practitioners who are adhering to things such as a punctual completion of their tasks. We want to ensure that our end at RETI, that we achieve consistently high pass rates for the courses that we are offering. And of course, collaboratively, we must work together as both a regulator and licensees to ensure the mitigation of losses in the industry. Teamwork is also another mark of success. Nothing good can be achieved by an individual on their own. And so at the RETI, and by wider extension, the REB, we have to ensure that what it is that we produce for you, our practitioners, and what it is that is provided to the public, it comes through a coordination of skill sets. We have to ensure that we optimize resources, both as practitioners and licensees, to address the challenges that are facing the industry, as well as to enhance the strengths that we currently have. Innovation. There is no way that we can want to pursue our HEI status without having what it is that we're doing underpinned by innovation. And so we want to ensure that as a training institute, as a regulator, what we're doing is economically feasible, that our delivery and the design of our products align with what it is our clients want. Also, that document control and communication is evident throughout the industry, that we have a presence, that persons feel safe and secure with coming to the regulator with suggestions and communicating with us effectively. It also means that for us to improve the quality of what it is that we're providing, that we need to have the right staffing, persons with the correct training, to produce and provide the services that you, our clients, require. We also need to ensure that when it is that we not only get to a stage where we're not only providing an online offering, but if it is that we're providing hybrid, which is a mixture of face-to-face and online, or if it is that we're having face-to-face modalities for various types of courses as the need may be, that your practitioners are in a safe and comfortable environment, both staff as well as our students. No sustainability. As I mentioned to you previously, we want to have these principles embedded in our teaching and learning environment. And one of the key ways in which that we can do this is by having sustainability as a principle. And when I say sustainability, I'm speaking of it from a broad perspective. So it's basically not only speaking to having an adherence to what is good and right for the environment, but speaking to us as individuals being able to basically be to be adaptable, to be resilient, to create processes and systems in place that are suitable not only for us, but for future generations. We want a teaching and learning environment, and that's what we're working towards, demonstrating that. And it's important for us to demonstrate that because not everything can be taught out of a textbook. Some things people have to feel and experience and learn for themselves. And it is our view that if it is our practitioners and those who will be potentially be coming into the industry is a part of a teaching and learning environment with such a setup, then that can be imposed and reflected on behavior going forward. Not only our behavior as individuals who are at the RETI or the REB, but also the behavior of our practitioners. And that ultimately means that we will, if our practitioners are sustainable, if our regulator is sustainable, then it means that the industry over time through behavior will be achieving sustainability. It also goes without saying that that's a practical way of adopting sustainable development in our policies, in our regulations, and the activities of the Institute and wider REB. Now, what it is you can expect going forward. Now, in the short term, you will be hearing from us through our customer satisfaction survey. And in addition to that, you will also be seeing the RETI reaching out to our professional agencies, which represent our practitioners in the near future, because we believe that the curriculum of the courses need to be aligned with what is currently happening in industry. And it also needs to cater to the needs of the individuals whom we will be serving. So that transcends into the delivery of our courses, how it is that we package what it is that we will be providing to you so that it meets your needs. You can also look out for an unveiling of the new application processes, as well as an upgrade to our CPD courses, the current CPD courses, as well as those new courses that I had mentioned earlier in my presentation that will be geared towards improving the practices for appraisals, as well as areas of property management in April and in May. That's my presentation to you. I hope that you found it useful, and I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very, very much, Dr. Beale, for a very enlightening, eye-opening, and certainly interesting overview of the Real Estate Training Institute. So we thank you very, very much. But now we'll be having our Mr. Pladley, Akeil Pladley, who will be presenting to us. And so we're going to invite him to take the baton on this leg of the journey. Mr. Pladley is the acting manager of the Real Estate Board's Inspectorate. He joined the Real Estate Board in 2016 after serving the Jamaica Constabulary Force for over 15 years, where he was exposed to the Proceeds of Crime Act. He held the position as Senior Inspector Anti-Money Laundering at the Real Estate Board between 2017 and 2022, and therefore has a vast knowledge of the industry in anti-money laundering and counter-financing of terrorism policies and procedures. He holds a bachelor's degree in engineering from the University of Technology, Jamaica, and he has several certificates in digital forensics. So Mr. Pladley, I welcome you to do your presentation just now, and I am looking forward to a very robust one from you. Thank you, Sir Pladley.
Thank you, Mr. Norton, for that wonderful introduction. Good morning, everyone. I'm just trying to get my camera on. Don't know what is happening. Right. It is always a pleasure for me to share with the practitioners on matters of compliance as it relates to the Real Estate Dealers and Developers Act. So this morning, it is a sensitization session for me, and I will be going straight to the presentation. The areas of discussion this morning are operation of client's account, difference between administrative staff and salesman, advertisement requirements, client's due diligence, TPA and POCA reports, employment, letters for salesmen, updating information, licensing period and penalty, expectation for dealer inspections. Right. Now, the first that we'll be looking at is the operation of client's account. Now, the Real Estate Dealers and Developers Act, of course, give real estate dealers an opportunity to hold client's account. Now, according to Section 25 of the legislation, and you will see where I indicate the reference here as it relates to the legislation, it is my intention to make the presentation available to you at the end so that you can make use of these references. So according to the legislation, it said the real estate dealers and salesmen shall without delay pay clients' money into client's account, right? So whether it be the real estate dealer or the real estate salesman who collect clients' funds, it is important for you to know that that money that you collect for your clients are to be placed into the client's account as soon as possible. You are also to ensure that clients' accounts are audited annually, and that is highlighted here in Regulation 16.1, right? Also, every real estate dealer who maintains a client's account shall produce to an inspector and demand the latest auditor's report in respect to the account. So from time to time, when an inspector either visit your office as a real estate dealer or on an off-site interaction with you as a real estate dealer, the inspector has the authority to request a copy of that audited report. And it is within your part of your requirements to ensure that that report is supplied to the inspector. I also provide some additional reference here as it relates to client's account. I am aware that some senior dealers may know exactly how to manage your client's account, but since of recent, there are a lot of new dealers to the industry. And so I provided the reference here for you to go and make yourself abreast of what it is all about as it relates to your client's account. So part 4 of the regulation speak to accounts and audit of your client's account. And there are some regulation here that I have highlighted, Regulation 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. All these regulations give you some insight as it relates to your client's account. Of course, I could use the opportunity here and go through some of these regulations and highlight some stuff, but I want you to be aware, I want you to read for yourself what is there in the legislation and the regulation as it relates to your client's account. It is always better for you to say that this is where I saw the information, rather than you saying that Mr. Pladley says this is what it is. And that is why I'm providing the reference for you to go and read for yourself. Now, since of recent, there has been some issue as it relates to a distinction between a real estate salesman and administrative staff. So I'll use this opportunity to try and identify what are the differences between a real estate salesman and administrative staff. The legislation gives us a definition for real estate salesman. Of course, it did not give us a definition for administrative staff. So I'll speak as it relates to real estate salesman, and then it is for you to decide if the persons who you have employed within your dealership as administrative staff are functioning as real estate salespersons. So first, I will look at the definition of a real estate salesman. Here it says, a real estate salesman means an individual who engages in the practice of real estate business in whole or in part as an agent of or subject to the direction, control, or management of a real estate dealer. And this is section 2 of the legislation, right? Now, you may realize here in this definition, I highlight the word real estate business. This is very critical because this is what you're going to use to now distinguish as to whether or not the persons who you have working under your dealership is operating as a real estate salesman or administrative staff. So the question is, what is real estate business? Now, according to the Real Estate Deals and Developers Act, section 3, subsection 1, and this is not the entire section itself, this is just an extract from the section. For compensation of valuable consideration, that individual takes any part in the procuring of sellers, purchasers, lessors, lessees, landlord, tenants of land, or directs, let me just shift this thing here so I can see properly, directs or assist in the procuring of prospects or the negotiation or closing of any transaction which results in a sale, exchange, lease, or rental of land of another, or is calculated to have that result. So here, according to section 3, subsection 1D and E, it outlines what real estate business is in this category. So if you have an administrative staff who is performing these functions, and it is for compensation or valuable consideration, then that individual should possess a license as a real estate salesman. Now, another sore issue that from time to time cause some problem are advertisement. And we have been seeing a lot of advertisements, both in the printed media and on social media, where the content of those advertisements seem to be outside what is required by the Real Estate Dealers and Developers Act. So first I will say all advertisement must be done under the dealership, right? No real estate salesman has the liberty to put out an advertisement without the knowledge of their real estate dealer. And as you know, as real estate salespersons, all transactions that you engage in, those transactions must go through your dealership. A real estate salesman does not have the authority to engage in a transaction without the real estate dealer being aware. And as a result, you should not put out any listing or any advertisement without the knowledge of the real estate dealer, right? Also, you should pay keen attention to the content of advertisement. Regulation 13 of the Code of Ethics gives a full account of what is required in the content of advertisement. And so I will implore all real estate practitioners to go to the regulation and look at what is outlined there so that you can make yourself abreast of what the content of those advertisements are so that you can do the correct thing. I know from time to time in engaging real estate practitioners, they would indicate to us that when they put out the advertisements to the advertising agencies, they would provide them with the content as is required, but from time to time, the advertising agents may leave off some of the information. Now, I must tell you that it is your responsibility to ensure that the content of the advertisement is as outlined under the Real Estate Dealers and Developers Act, as well as the Code of Ethics and the regulation. Another aspect is real estate dealers who choose to advertise an entire development scheme. Now, section 27, regulation 18, these are the aspect of the legislation that outlines how the content of these advertisements are to be done. Also, of recent, while it doesn't directly impact on a real estate sales dealer, but it is important for you to pay some attention to the amendment to 2013 regulation, where there was an inclusion of section 18A under regulation 18 of the regulation. And that speaks to a strata plan as a development scheme, right? So it is very important as a real estate dealer that you make yourself knowledgeable as it relates to this aspect of the regulation and the amendment. Customer due diligence. Now, I spent a lot of time during our training to talk about customer due diligence, right? Now, in your dealership, operating as a real estate dealer, you will have in your possession your customer information form. And of course, this is the first line of engagement after establishing a client's relationship or a business relationship with your clients, where you would provide this document to your clients to ensure that you get some information on your clients so as to establish identity. So the first aspect of client's due diligence is identification. And that comes with you collecting some information on your client, such as name, address, TRN, etc. So there are a lot of information that you will collect from your client on that customer information form and what is required to complete your listing form. Another aspect is to establish authority. What authority does the person who is probably giving you a listing, whether it is in the capacity as a vendor or a landlord, what authority do they have to give you that listing, right? So the identification aspect is the first part of client's due diligence. The second aspect is the verification. Now, after you establish an identity of the individual, there are some documents that you would use to ensure that you can verify that the person is who they say they are and they lives where they say they live. So the first is a picture ID, and then you'd use proof of address, company documents where it is a body corporate, and a title to ensure that the person has authority to give you that property to sell, right? Now, as it relates to picture ID, we would have indicated in our training that where you're engaging clients on a non-face-to-face basis, they are considered as high-risk clients. And where you're going to require them to provide you with identification, we ask that you get those documents notarized. The fact is, a client who just copy an ID and send it to you, there's no way for you to verify that that is the person who you are interacting with. And so the notary public or a justice of the peace who has the legal authority to provide that level of verification is the person who is required to certify those documents so as to ensure that the person who you are interacting with is actually that person providing you with the documentation. So we ask that you get those documents verified. Now, of course, a non-face-to-face client, being an high-risk client, you are required to ensure that you carry out some enhanced customer due diligence on those clients. I will use this opportunity to say to you that there are times when you may request a document from a non-face-to-face client and they will get it notarized, but the notary public number are maybe fake, because I have seen that before. I'm going to use this opportunity to let you know that since of recent, I have seen where unscrupulous persons are attempting to use the real estate industry as a gateway for fraudulent activities. And this is one of the ways in which they will engage real estate practitioners and ask them to either sell a property, and they will provide documentation properly notarized, but the notary public number that is on the document is fake. And sometimes the TRN is fake. And if you're not careful, you can get caught up in this type of situation. So it is very important that you carry out the necessary customer due diligence and enhanced due diligence. Check to ensure that the notary public number is correct. I understand that there are ways in which you can check those numbers. Also check to ensure that the TRN that the individual gives to you is correct, so that you can ensure that the client who you are interacting with is actually the person who you want or have the authority to allow you to list those property, right? Now, and so when it comes to high-risk clients, it requires enhanced customer due diligence, and the customer information form, it will tell you where you are, what information you are supposed to collect. It requires you collecting information on that client's spouse and children, and also in terms of gathering additional information. This is where you would carry out your verification and the notary public number, as well as your TRN. So it is very important for you as real estate dealers to pay close attention to the due diligence aspect of while carrying out your real estate business, as well as your enhanced customer due diligence process. All right. Now, the filing of the Terrorism Prevention Act report and the Proceeds of Crime Act report. Now, as you are aware, you are required to file your Terrorism Prevention Act listed entities report 3 times per year. How this is done, and this is mainly for the newer dealers. Of course, tomorrow we'll be having some training on the GoAML portal to assist some real estate dealers with this aspect of their reporting. But what is required of you is to check the United Nations sanction list, and this sanction list is located on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the FID's website, right? To ensure that the clients that you have dealt with over a particular period does not exist on that particular list, right? So the reporting period is from January to April, and you are required to file that report in May. The other is from May to August, and you're required to file that report in September. The other is from September to December, and you are required to file that report January the following year. Now, all that report is done, for example, we are going to go in the second reporting period, which is the first reporting period, which will be from January to April. Now, at the end of April, when you're going to file that report in May, what is required of you is to go on the United Nations sanction list and to check to see if any of the clients that you have dealt with from January to April is on that list. If any of the client is on that list, you are required to go to the GoAML portal and file a listed entity report. Now, the difference here, whether someone is on the list or they are not on the list, you are still required to file a report. But when you go to the possible report trigger, that's when you're going to make some distinction, and then you can proceed to file your report. So whether someone is on the list or not, you are still required to file your listed entity report. It's just what you select on the portal itself. I will not go in details as it relates to the reports, because I know all real estate dealers, possibly, apart from those who will be trained tomorrow, you would have been exposed to those levels of training, both from the TPA as well as the GoAML training. So please bear that in mind. Now, there's another report that you are required to file under the Terrorism Prevention Act, which is the Suspicious Activity Report. Now, this is a report that is required if, while carrying out your real estate business, you identify any suspicion as it relates to terrorist activities. You are required to file those reports within 15 days of detection of that suspicion, right? And it is right there on the GoAML portal for you to identify your report and file your report. Under the Proceeds of Crime Act, you are required to file reports. There are 2 reports there that you can file, which is a suspicious activity report. And this report, based on this detection, is required to be filed within 15 days. So once you are carrying out your real estate business and you identify any form of suspicion as it relates to money laundering, then you are required to file that report. Authorized disclosure request for consent. This is a report where you'd file if, while engaging in real estate business, you were to have any form of suspicion at the initial stage of engaging your client, and you are not comfortable in carrying out that report, that transaction, sorry, then you will seek consent from the Chief Technical Director at FID, and that is done through the Go AML portal. There's one other report that you're also required to file, and this one is filed at the time when you're filing your listed entities report, and that is the United Nations Security Council Resolution Implementation Act, UNSCRIA. You're also required to file that report within the same period of time when you're filing your listed entity report. And that, as I indicated it here, so it is all these reports, it is very important for you to note the time when you are required to file these reports and ensure that they are filed on time. I still note where there are some real estate dealers who have not been filing their reports. I should tell you that the fines for not filing these reports are very hefty. I oftentimes share with real estate practitioners that you can spend some time and collect very good commission, but if you are not in compliance with respective legislation, then you can pay over those commission back in fines. So I will implore you to ensure that you pay some attention to the period of time in which you are supposed to file your reports and ensure that all your reports are filed on time. I'm also going to say to you that if you were to try and file your report after the date, after the end of each month, it will not go through. It's an automated portal, and so it will not facilitate you filing your report after the reporting time, after the end of each reporting month. So please ensure you have 1 month to file your report after the period. Please ensure that if you were to have any form of issue with your username or your password, get in touch with the real estate board, myself at the real estate board, or Ms. Claudia Allen, and we will assist you in trying to reset your password so that you can file your reports on time. Updating contact information. Now, this is sometimes a problem for real estate practitioners, because from time to time we may send out communication to the industry, and some real estate practitioners may be saying that they are not getting those correspondence. And it can be as a result of practitioners' information is not updated. So it is very important that if you were to move from your address, ensure that your business address, your email address, your telephone number is updated, right? There's a updated address form. There's a template on our website. So you can go to our website, complete the form, and update the information, and then send that information to the real estate board so that we can provide you with adequate communication. And whenever we send out communication, it comes to you, right? A real estate dealer should not practice real estate business from an address other than that on your license. Now, this is very critical. And I put here real estate associate who no longer work with another dealer. This is something that can catch real estate dealers operating in this category. So you may be working with or under another dealership, and you choose to move from that dealership and go to another address to operate your real estate business. But you have not updated your information with the real estate board. Now, it is for you to know that if you were to practice from that address, and upon the inspection of an inspector, it is noted that you are practicing from that address, it is a breach of the legislation. So it is also important for you to update your business address as it relates to you practicing from that address. And for those realtor associates, the moment you choose to move, while it is not a legal requirement for you to tell us when you're going to work with a real estate dealer or you're not going to work with a real estate dealer, but it is important where the address aspect is concerned. So please go on the real estate board's website, download that update address information form, complete that information and send it to the real estate board. If it is a case where you are aware that your information, there are changes to your information so that you can get all the necessary correspondence from the real estate board when it is sent out by our marketing team. Licensing period and penalty. Now, just to remind you, as I know some, well, all real estate practitioners should know when is the licensing period, but I'm going to remind you here. The licensing period is April 1 to March 31 each year, right? Now, you have up until the 30th of April to pay your license fee without attracting a penalty. And the penalty is 25% after the 30th of April and another 25% after September, right? Now, what is important here for you to note is that no transaction is to be initiated until a license is issued to you. So for those persons who have not paid their license fee by the 30th of March, once it reaches the 30th of March, your license expired. And you should not engage in any new transaction at that time. So the period between April 1 to April 30th, it is just a period for you to pay your license without attracting a penalty. It is not a go ahead for you to engage in real estate business because at that time, technically you do not have a license to practice. You do not have a license issued by the real estate board. So you should not engage in any new transaction at that time, right? Now, another information to note here, based on section 47, just want you to know a real estate practitioner cannot sue for commission if they are not licensed. So within that period, we call it the grace period. If you were to engage a client and that client choose not to pay their commission, then you can't take that person to court to try and recover costs because that is a breach of the legislation for you to be practicing without a license. So I want you to pay close attention to that aspect of it. Salesman employment letters. Now, real estate dealers should provide a list of all salespersons who are working under their dealership each year. Now, the dealer must ensure that salesman is still employed to them, right? Now, from time to time, I've gone to real estate dealership to carry out inspection. And what I observe is that they would provide a list to the real estate board. But we realize that salesmen who are on that list may end up on another list or under the employment of another dealership. What it says is that the real estate dealer is not paying attention to their salespersons. They will just prepare a list and assume that the salesperson is going to still remain with the dealership. So what I'm imploring you to do, real estate dealers, please ensure that you know if the real estate dealers are, that is currently working under your dealership is still going to remain with you for the next reporting period. It does not look good for us to be coming to your office and you are producing a list of real estate salesmen. And then when we check that list, then you realize it is at that time you realize that the salesman is not working with you. What it is telling us is that you do not have your real estate salespersons under control. And then there's another aspect to it is that you are not ensuring that the salespersons that are working under your dealership are licensed, right? Because if you were aware of that, then you would have the salesman license in your possession and you would have known that that salesperson is either gone to another real estate dealer to work or they choose not to work with you, right? Now, as it relates to salesman letters, there are specimens of the employment letters on the REB's website and a registration. So please go to the website and download those templates. I will suggest that you use the templates that are on our website. There's one for one salesman, and there's a template for a group of salesmen, and there's a template for individual applying to become a salesman. Especially for the person, the individual applying to become a salesman. I implore you to use that template, because from time to time when a salesman submit an application and the dealer provide us with a letter, they would oftentimes write the letter in a form as if the salesman is already working with them. So please try as best as possible to use the template that is on our website, so that you can have the correct letter coming to us at the real estate board. Expectation for a real estate dealer in an inspection. Now, once an inspector from the real estate board communicate with you as a real estate dealer and tell you that we're going to come to your office for an inspection, because oftentimes we'll inform you that we're going to carry out an inspection at your office. We will possibly do some off-site check. We may check on your file so as to ensure whether or not you're sending a list of salesmen or whatever we may see important for us to establish before coming to your office, and so as to reduce the amount of time that we'll spend within the offices. But on the on-site inspection, there are some things that we are going to look for. So please pay keen attention to some of these things. Of course, this list is not exhaustive, but these are some pertinent things that you should ensure that it do exist within your dealership. So first, we are going to look for a sign bearing the dealer name and the area of practice, and they should be displayed at a conspicuous position outside the office of the dealer. Right? We're going to look for a registration certificate and current dealer license, and this should also be displayed at a conspicuous position inside the office. Just to go back a little bit here as it relates to registration certificate, there are some real estate dealers who may not aware that you should have a registration certificate. I will use this opportunity to say to you, your interaction with the real estate board comes in two forms. There's a registration aspect where you are registered with the real estate board and you are placed on our book of register, and there's a licensing aspect where that expiration that I spoke about exists. So it is important for all real estate practitioners to ensure that you pick up your registration certificate at the real estate board, especially for the dealers, because it is a requirement for you to have your registration certificate display within your offices, as also your current dealer license. I know some real estate dealers may display their salesman license, but it is not a requirement under the legislation, but it is not a problem for you to display your salesman license. Right? We are expecting you to have a compliance regime. This is your policy document. It may incorporate aspects of the Proceeds of Crime Act, as well as that which has to do with general guidance within your dealership. However way you put this compliance regime together, what we want to know, there are certain content that we are going to look at within that compliance regime. And we want to ensure that all real estate dealers have a compliance regime at their dealership. We are going to also ensure that it is not a case where you prepare a compliance regime and put it in your cabinet and none of your administrative staff or your real estate practitioners are aware of the content of the compliance regime. So we're going to test to see if the persons who are working under the dealership are aware of what is there, what the guidelines are, who they are supposed to report to. So it is very important that you have this compliance regime within your dealership, and all your real estate practitioners as well as your administrative staff are aware of the content of this compliance regime. And I will use this opportunity to tell you that we do have a specimen of this compliance regime on our website. Real estate dealers can download that specimen and modify it to suit your dealership. We are also going to test to find out if you have a nominated officer appointed. Now, a nominated officer can be a senior manager, it can be the real estate dealer, as well as, but it has to be someone who is knowledgeable as it relates to the Proceeds of Crime Act, and they do have authority within the dealership. So please ensure that you appoint a nominated officer, and this nominated officer is a person who is responsible for ensuring that those TPA reports and those POCA reports are are filed on time. They are also responsible for ensuring that reports coming from the real estate salesman, of course, the Proceeds of Crime Act speaks specifically to the nominated officer. It is their responsibility to ensure that those reports are filed to FID, whoever is nominated within the dealership. So to not appoint a nominated officer, it is a breach of the Proceeds of Crime Act. And of course, as you know, the real estate board is the competent authority for that. So we do have the authority to check to ensure that the real estate dealers do appoint this person. We are also going to check to find out if you are doing the appropriate filing. We're going to check to ensure that you are doing your TPA reports are being filed, as well as your Proceeds of Crime Act reports. We are going to ensure that files are kept a particular way. There are some dealers who may choose to keep their filing electronic. Well, it doesn't matter whether it is electronic or it is in hard copy, then you must have them available to us for us to carry out some level of inspection on those files, right? So it is very important that you pay some attention to some of this. As I said before, the list is not exhaustive, but these are some pertinent things that we will pay attention to once we choose to carry out some inspection within your dealership, right? Basically, that is my presentation. I hope you were enlightened where this presentation is concerned. And as I indicated before, the references are there. You can always utilize this presentation and go back to the legislation and make yourself aware as to what are required. Thank you. And now over to you.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Pladley, for a very enlightening discourse. I know that persons have questions, but we'll have a question and answer section where you'll have an opportunity to ask all the questions that you require. At present, I know that some of the questions are being monitored as we speak, so you'll have ample time to answer those questions. I know that we're going a bit off script just now, and I crave your indulgence. We have with us Mr. Jermaine Simms. He is our revenue officer, and we want to invite him just to speak a little, it won't be long, on the payment options that are available to you. This is in an effort to ensure that we are able to reduce the number of unverified or unaccounted for funds that keep popping up in our accounts from individuals who would not have followed the proper payment options that are available. And so I'm just going to now invite Mr. Jermaine Simms to speak briefly on that matter. Mr. Simms?
All right. Good morning, everyone. All right, thank you, Mr. Norton, and good morning again, everyone. So as I mentioned, this section is to take you through the various avenues by which you can make payments to the real estate board, and also to reduce the number of unidentified payments, and also to make it make issuing your license a more seamless process. So I'll just go ahead and have a presentation ready for you. Okay. All right. So how do I make payments to the real estate board? I know that some of you realtors are seasoned and have been making your payments using our various options. So, but we're still going through just to reinforce the options as well as to integrate the new realtors that may be on hand. Now, we have a number of payment options over the years we've added as we go along. We just want to inform you that and remind you as well that we have the bill payment options. Now, the bill payment options at this time are only limited to two banks, and that is Scotiabank and the National Commercial Bank. So that's the bill payment option. So you simply utilize this option when you're paying us just like you would pay your utility bills. Once you're utilizing these options, you are given the options to add the real estate board as a payee, and then it will ask you for your account number. Your account number is basically the same as your license number. So once you're adding us, you use a license number. So when you're using this option, as we've noticed over time that some persons have simply utilized this example here, SL00123. And, you know, we try to encourage you to desist from doing that. This section is strictly for your unique license number. If you use this example here, we will not be able to identify who the funds in this case belongs to. And, you know, it's easy to see what the consequence is. There will be a delay in having your license issued. The same principle applies for the National Commercial Bank. It's the same principle. Once you go on, add the real estate board as a payee using your unique license number. For those who choose to do so, the option is there for you to come go into the bank. And at this time, it's only Scotiabank you're able to go into Scotiabank and make a lodgement there to our account. But in order for you to do so, you need the information or account number, which you can see here. And this information is also on our website as well. So you have our account number, the branch, which is the New Kingston branch. The CCP number is very important. You cannot just simply go into the bank and give them the account number and the name and say, I'm making a lodgement. You need the CCP number in order to make a lodgement along with your license number. It has been observed as well that sometimes persons don't know their license number when they're in the bank, but we realize that sometimes the tellers know that, all right, it needs your license number is 4 digits. So they may randomly just enter 4 digits just to allow the lodgement to go through, you know, and, you know, they're with the best of intentions, they're trying to accommodate you. But the consequence is that when we see those lodgements, we see a $22,000 or a $44,000, we know, we more than likely know what it is for. But the big question is, who is it for? And that is the problem. So that money that is there, it just sits there until somebody comes forward with a deposit slip or something to identify that this money belongs to them. And so again, the consequence, a delay in having your license being issued. So I encourage you, once you go into the bank, just have the information, the account number, the CCP number, and your unique license number. If you want to come into the office, you can choose to do so using your debit or your credit card. The cash transactions, we encourage you not to do that as we are moving away from that option. So strictly your debit card and your credit card transactions for in-office payments. So as a reminder again, for your information, it's Scotiabank, the branch code 50575 for those who want to go into the bank, the account number 26115, and the CCP number. There's the bill payment option, and then there's also the transfer. So if it is that you want to make a transfer from your account, if it is that you don't have a Scotiabank or NCB account, and you want to make a transfer to your account, the same information applies, the name of the bank, Scotiabank, or account number. And you're reminded as well that it's not immediate. So if it is that, you know, you may be waiting on some funds and you want to make your payment and, you know, you want your license to be issued, but then you use another bank and you do a transfer. Sometimes it does take a few days or the next business day. So it's not to say that the same time you make that transfer from, let's say, First Caribbean, we will immediately see the funds that was transferred. No, sometimes it takes a day or two. And so there may be a delay in having your license issued as well. Now, once you make a transfer from other financial institutions or transfer overall, you're encouraged to send us a copy of the receipt for that transaction. The reason why we ask for this is that once you make a transfer, at times we are still not able to identify who the funds belong to. We have seen situations where John Brown may have some difficulty using the online mediums, and so John Brown may ask Jane Doe, who is not a realtor, to make the transfer on their behalf. Now, when that transfer is made and comes over to the real estate board, we see a transfer of $22,000 for a Jane Doe, but our records does not have a Jane Doe, and so we are not able to say that, hey, is really John Brown this individual is paying for. So that's why we ask that you email those proof of payments. Additionally, sometimes persons, when they're emailing the proof of payment, they may have dealt with customer service, they may have dealt with a particular inspector. And so they have actually emailed the proof of payment to that point of contact. We can understand because you're comfortable with that person. They were the ones that you were actually speaking with. But even if it is that you want that person to be aware that you made the payment, still send your payments to the real estate board's email account, and you can copy that individual on the email. The reason for this is you sending it to an individual is somewhat of a tricky situation, because you may send it to that individual. What if they're not at work on that given day? What if for whatever reason they no longer work at the real estate board? So a number of factors may delay getting your license issued. So you're encouraged. We have the internal mechanisms in place whereby once you send your emails, it is sorted and it is assigned to the respective department for that email to be actioned. So you don't necessarily have to send it to that individual. If you want to send that email, you address it to whoever it is, and we have our internal IT personnel who assigns those emails to the particular person. So yes, send it to the real estate board email, which is there, and then you also copy whoever it is that you want on it. All right. Now, the other payment option that we have is our client portal. That one is what we have introduced for about 2 years or so now, and we are encouraging you to utilize the client portal. The reason that we want to utilize the client portal is the advantages it offers over the other payment options. You are able to create an account and make payments directly to the real estate board. So as soon as you click the payment button and your card is charged, we're able to see internally that transaction. So it eliminates that delay, and it also expedites your license being issued as well. And once you utilize the payment portal, there's no real need to send a proof of payment for that option, because it captures your information. You can't make a payment without you creating an account. Let me just go ahead and just give you a quick snippet as to what the client portal is like for those who have not yet utilized it. Okay. All right, so a number of you would have already been familiar with the real estate board's website, which is reb.gov.jm. And it's important to note right here in the top corner, you will see the question, how to pay. Click here. Now, once you click on that option, you'll see the number of payment options listed here that we have discussed so far. All of them are there, but the number one option is our client portal. Now, as you can see, the client portal takes you directly to our payment portal page. In order for this to work for you, you need to create an account. And creating an account is pretty much straightforward. You indicate whether you are a salesman or a dealer. You indicate your license number and your name, email address, and password. Now, once you are inside the client portal, you're able to make your payment, and not just for license fees, but also for the various CPD courses that you may have to do as well. And additional benefits of using the portal is you're able to track the history of your transactions. So you won't necessarily have to call to say if you don't remember if you had made the payment last time or how much money you had paid. You are able to log into the client portal and see a history of the transactions, including the courses that you have paid for. So now, as it relates to the courses, not necessarily that the courses that you have done, because you can pay for the course but not actually do it. But you are able to see a history of the payments that you have made to us. So the client portal right now is the most effective way to make your payments. The benefits again, once your card is charged, it comes immediately to us. So we are able to process your receipt in a quicker manner. It eliminates the delay when you do transfers that may not be immediate. It also eliminates the unidentified payments. So we're able to capture exactly who the payment is for. Once you're in it as well, if it is that somebody asks you to make a payment for them, the option is there as well to indicate whether you're paying for yourself or you're paying for somebody else. And once it is that you indicate that you're paying for somebody else, then you are also given the option to enter that person's license number. So no payment goes through on the client portal without proper identification. And that is what we're pushing. That is what we're encouraging you to do. It's the most effective way. And for those who may be concerned about online payments and the security, our payment is just as payment portal is just as secure as any of the other payment options that are there. If it is that you have any difficulty as well, we are able to resolve it internally, so you don't have to worry about that. So again, you're encouraged to utilize the portal. Feel free. Additionally as well, once you click on the payment button to make the payment, you'll see a spinning wheel indicating that the transaction is being processed. You're encouraged not to interact with the screen during that time. Once you click on pay, you simply just wait. It takes a couple of seconds, and then you're presented with a receipt that you're able to download for your records. So it's real simple and easy. So those are our payment options. We encourage you to do them. So we're not just here to collect your fees. We want to ensure that they are properly accounted for and processed so that you can get on with your business or practice in real estate in a professional way, in a licensed way. There are persons in the industry, you may be interacting with them. Behind your back, they may make a phone call to say if John Brown is a licensed realtor. Unfortunately, in some cases, we may be able to say that John Brown is a registered realtor, but at the moment they are not licensed. That could be for a number of reasons, but a lot of times it's because there are payment issues. So we don't want to have your funds sitting down. We want to ensure that they are properly accounted for and you can carry on your business of practice in real estate in an ethical and proper way. So with that in mind, that's my presentation. I thank you very much for your presence, and thank you for having me as well.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Simms. I trust that all on board would have heard and are now fully familiar with how the payment options are to be applied and under what circumstance and so on. We want to ensure that everything is done to the best for the benefit of our stakeholders. And so we don't want to have your funds idling with us. We want to ensure that everything is firmly applied to your account so that you are in good standing with yourselves first and with the board again. So right now we are getting into what I consider the most important segment for this session, because we want to hear from you, our stakeholders. And so now we're going into the question and answer section. Many of you would have been writing your questions in the chat, and we appreciate that. However, we're going to be trying to go alternatively between those individuals who would have raised their hands and going through the questions that are provided in the chat. so that we can deal with all the issues. And for those issues that we may not have addressed, we may have missed and so on, there's still the option for you to write to us with those questions, and we'll be sure to respond to you. Our email address would be rhdsupport@reb.gov.jm or info@reb.gov.jm. So we'll be taking questions both in writing and also allowing persons to speak once they have indicated via the raise hand feature that is there. You'll be allowed to open your microphone and speak once identified, and we will attempt to take as many questions as possible. I know that we are amongst an august body of individuals, very professional, and we appreciate that. So there is no reason for me to expect that we are not going to be respectful of person's opinions or person's questions. So we just ask everyone to be respectful in what you write in the chat or in the questions that you may be posing. All right. And once we do that, we'll be having a very smooth interaction. So I'm going to go to the chat. I see 3 hands that are there. I'm going to go to the chat first. So once we deal with what is in the chat, then we can, more adequately deal with also what is going to be asked online. So I'm going to go to the chat. It is asking, will the property manager accreditation be open up to salesmen? So I presume that I would want to ask our COO, Mr. Brown, if you'll be able to field that question for us.
Currently, the curriculum is already under review by the board of directors, and we have it in mind in terms of contemplating the various options available for the various courses that we deliver. So it's currently under review by the board of directors.
Okay. All right. Let me see. We need to go one further. Okay. Okay, we have so many questions that are here. I'm going to go to Mr. Neville Townsend and ask him to unmute and to provide us his question. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you very much for admiring me. I'm glad this course is very informative, and I hope everybody is in the real estate business listening to this course and participating because it's very informative. My question is, in reference to client account, if a dealer do not have a client account, should the dealer still report anything on a client account?
Mr. Brown, you want to fill that one for us?
Section 25 of the Act speaks to funds which should be held in those accounts. So if clients' funds are not accepted, then you need to have a client's account. It's only when they collect clients' funds, and I specifically mean clients' funds, not commission, clients' funds. So for example, a client may pay down on lot 20 in Richmond, for argument's sake, and they would pay the money directly to the dealer. Then those funds should go into the account immediately. So those are the funds that we are talking about. So if you're doing a transaction and you're paid a commission, those funds must not go in the account. But for pertaining to clients who make deposits, whether it be for rent and rental agreements or pertaining to a prepayment contract or a sales agreement, those funds are to go in the client's accounts.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, we have a question, and this, I presume it's one individual who is considered to be an anonymous attendee. It would have been more appropriate if we know who this attendee is so that, we would be able to speak more clearly. But for the time being, the anonymous attendee has asked for the validation of the TRN. Can access to the database be organized via the REB to assist with that process? This is currently done by most financial institutions as part of their due diligence process. I think that's a question best answered by either Mr. Brown, because I presume this is a matter of some policy direction that has to take place where that is concerned. You're muted, Mr. Brown.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Norton. Pertaining to that question, we take note of the request and we keep it on advisement, and we can direct the matter to the board of directors in relation to that matter.
Thank you very, very much. We have Coran Bell. I'm gonna allow you now to pose your question. You can unmute and speak. Coran Bell. If you can't hear you, we're gonna move on to the next question. It's still from an anonymous attendee. Just for confirmation, does a valuer need to have their clients fill out a client information form and take the same information that is required of a broker? Mr. Pladley, you want to hit that one on the head?
Most definitely, I can. Right. The legislation speaks to a real estate dealer being a reporting entity. I know from some time ago, there was some discussion as to whether or not dealers who engage in just valuation should ensure or have their clients complete those customer information forms. But what I'll say to you is that no one can exempt you from what is required by the legislation. And so it is a requirement for all real estate dealers, once you're engaging a client, to ensure that the customer information form is completed. So whether you're a valuer or a dealer who just engage in valuation, or you are engaged in sales, rental, and leases, it is a requirement for you, once you're engaging your client, to complete the customer, to have the clients complete the customer information form.
Oh, thank you very much, Sir Pladley. There's another question here from the anonymous attendee, and I hate to refer to the individual as such, but nonetheless, do you have plans of doing a short course for auctioneering so dealers can add to their license once completed, similar to the project management setup? Again, I think that goes to our COO, Mr. Cresswell Brown.
Currently, slew of courses offered by RETI is currently on a revision. So these proposals has been put forward. Although they do not currently exist, we take them on advisement and we could make the necessary presentation to the board of directors going forward.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Brown. We have a Maureen Seymour who has a question. I'm going to ask him to unmute and provide us with his question. Mr. Seymour, Maureen Seymour. All right, we're going to move on because it appears that they are not available at present. So I'm going to ask, who else is there? I don't see any more hands raised. Yes, I see a Roger Russell. Mr. Russell, can you ask your question?
Thank you. Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Here?
Go ahead, please.
Yes, I am concerned about an application that I made last year, July 22. After completing the property management course, I had applied for it to be added to my license, dealer's license. I paid the $7,000. I have not yet received that license. I am now due $44,000 for the upcoming year. Will that $7,000 be refunded to me? I spoke with somebody during the course of last week and they said it was prepared from November. Up to now, I have not received anything. And another thing, I've been asking for the dealer's registration from ever since and just cannot get it either.
All right, thank you very much for your question. However, I do believe in such matters that relate to you specifically, it is best that you write to us and you write specifically to, you can write to the Chief Operations Officer, who is Mr. Cresswood Brown, or you can write to Mr. Akeil Pladley, who is the manager for the Real Estate Board's Inspectorate, and ask that question directly, and I am certainly they'll be able to address you, but it wouldn't be pointed for them to try and answer that personal question in this particular space. All right. So they will, so please write to them and they'll be able to deal with you directly. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Someone wants to know whether or not the presentation will be shared. I leave that up to Mr. Wilson, and I do believe it can be shared. However, you just have to write to us and ask, and we'll see what can be done to facilitate that. Are there any plans in place to ensure that when documents are sent to the board, that they don't go missing? Sir COO?
Repeat the question.
Are there any plans in place to ensure that when documents are sent to the board, that they do not go missing?
No.
Thank you for that. In relation to all applications being processed, in order to process applications timely, we have a process through which the applications goes through our registry and where we would check off on those applications. There are some matters which are sent by email. So in order to process applications in a more timely fashion, we have set up our new department, licensing application, where matters coming in can be verified and processed in a timely fashion. As to the mode through which that application was submitted or documentation, I'm presuming if it was through the email, if it's sent, we ask that person send these documentation to customercare@reb.gov.gm or info@reb.gov.gm, so as to ensure that the documentation that coming in the offices can actually be verified and dealt with by the department itself, as opposed to being sent to an individual person. In relation to matters that comes through incoming mails, where we have checks and balances in place where we can verify when those documentation came in and assign officers whose those documentation will be assigned to. So if in that particular case that the person is referring to, they can make contact with the customer service department and we can do some other further investigation as it relates to that matter. Thank you.
Oh, thanks very much, Mr. Brown. There's a small question here. I'm going to facilitate this question before we go back to the raised hands. It pertains to standardized forms. The question is, will standardized forms be created for all dealers to use? Example, listing and offer forms.
Good afternoon, Mr. Norton. Good afternoon, everyone. It's something that we have taken note of, and this being a consultative session of consultation, we will take that on board and we will review. And if there's any movement, then we'll certainly update the industry.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. CEO. We move to the raised and questions. Christine Bernard, can you unmute and ask your question, please?
Oh, hello. I had actually put it in the chat, the Q&A. I was just curious if the property management course, if it's going to be online. I had heard someone saying that some of the courses would be online, but I missed what courses they would be and when they would be. And also to the gentleman that was speaking about payments, I actually just made my payment for my dealer's license, but it's saying something about awaiting payments. So I don't know what that means. I was hoping that it would have been, an easier process. So maybe he can give me some idea of that. Maybe I would need to be taken offline. But yes, I'm interested in doing the property management course, and I just want to know if it would be easier for me to be able to do that online.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Ms. Bernard. I'll direct that question to our Dr. Tina Beale, who is the principal for the Real Estate Training Institute.
Okay, so good morning and thanks for your question. So yes, the property management course will be offered online. As
Great.
to a start date, we're anticipating for the course to run from October 2 into November.
Wonderful.
Okay.
And then the gentleman who
All right, Ms.
spoke
Bernard,
about the
where that is concerned, I would suggest that you just write to us again and just address your concerns to Mr. Jermaine Simms. He was the presenter.
Sims.
Yes, who
I'll call
spoke
him.
right, and he'll be able to assist you in how.
Yes, he has always been helpful.
Okay, oh, pleasure to hear that. All right, there is a question here from the anonymous attendee again. It relates to the conduct for valuers, which was recently published with regards to Part 3, Section 6.3. Many organizations, parent companies, and subsidiaries do sales, valuations, and even issue mortgages. Also, the issue of sales and valuations is a direct avenue of conflict of interest. Did the board consider this when writing these rules of conduct? Should we ask a member of the panel if they'd want to look at this? What would have been the issues with dealing with rules, dealing with conflicts of interest as it relates to the conduct for valuers? What I do know is that the board would have taken into consideration this, and it is outlined in the Registration Real Estate Dealers and Developers Act that person should avoid conflicts of interest. But what I'm going to ask this particular panel, well, not the panel, but the individual who asked this particular question, is that you make contact with us because you're dealing specifically with particular sections of a document that we do not have access to at present in this particular forum, and it would not have been something that we would have addressed in our deliberations. So in order to satisfy your question, I'm going to ask that you write to us, again, using the RHD support at reb.gov.jm, and we definitely will respond to you in relation to that specific question. All right. I'm just going through our questions here. There's another raised hand by Andrea Stoltz. I'm going to ask you to unmute and to provide us with your question, please. Andrea? I don't know if you're muted or otherwise, but we are not hearing anything from you. All right, we're going to move on to Mr. Newton Johnson. I'm going to lower your hand, Andrea. And perhaps if it is that you have, you are able to sort out your technological issues, then you can raise your hand again and ask your question. Mr. Johnson, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. I think this type of outreach from the REB, it is one that has always been looked forward to. I'd like to welcome Dr. Beale. This is one thing I've always advocated for revamping of all the courses as it relates to the brokers and the agents. So again, I would like to say it's a positive move. But my question now is, as it relates to the Real Estate Developers, Dealers and Developers Act, I heard Mr. Pladley on the news media being very vocal as to where it is going. I've not seen for years, we have been advocating that we have a level playing field as dealers, that we have a level playing field, and we are held to an order similar to that of developers. And I've not seen it over the years. We have been advocating for this, and we have not seen this. Is there a time frame when the act itself will play its part in bringing into the fold the developers. Because as it is now, we're in the gray list as far as reporting is concerned, right? And everybody keep on looking at dealers. When will the developers be brought into fore as far as this act is concerned?
Right, so good afternoon, Mr. Johnson, Phillip Chambers. So as we rightly know that the formation and enunciation and promulgation of final policies rests outside of the real estate board and the ministry and specifically the cabinet. We continue to lobby for the completion of the revision of that act. And so we'll continue to lobby even further, but the final timeline does not rest with the Real Estate Board, Commission of Strata Corporation. It rests with the central government, and we'll continue to lobby to ensure that the updates are completed as soon as possible.
Very good, Mr. Chambers. All right, we will go to another question that is posed by Anonymous again. Anonymous, we're going to ask you the next time that you're in any of our webinars, if you could just please identify who you are, all right? A statement is made and a question posed after. It is, I would like to see measures taken to provide cost-effective access to data for all practicing dealers and salespersons. Is the Real Estate Board looking into agreement with NLA, Realtors Association, etc., to sign an MOU and provide a way for us to access data more cost effectively? Sir Chambers, I believe this one is for you.
Sounds like quite a worthy suggestion, and we'll certainly take that on board. So we'll record that as one of the items for review. And once we have reviewed an update, we'll provide the same.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Chambers. We're going to go to the raised hand feature. And we have a Akeil Pladley who has a question. I'm going to ask you to unmute and provide us with your question.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My question surrounds ads. Mr. Pladley had mentioned and cited sections of the Real Estate Dealer and Developers Act for development schemes and for what practitioners are to adhere to. My question is, in the name of the act, it says dealer and developers. How and if this requirement applies to third parties or affiliates who may post listings of new developments in their newsletters. So for example, a financial institution might be doing the financing of a new development and would be reposting a realtor or a brokerage's listing or listings, or even the developer who happen to perhaps be a financial institution may have information going to the public advertising their development. Would they be required to note in their marketing collateral for whom and when the relevant approvals were obtained and the necessary requirements as outlined in the section 27(1) to 2 that all realtors and dealers need to adhere to?
Mr. Brown, that is squarely up your alley.
I will defer that response to our attorney, Mr. Bassiana.
Quite so.
Mr. Thank you very much for this question. And I see why the question is posed, but I think the legislation is very clear that it is not specific to a dealer, a developer, or a salesman. It says a person shall not advertise for sale any land or building in a development scheme unless certain things obtained. So it is an obligation on the person advertising.
I thought as much, as I do see financial institutions and other third parties innocently, but it's because they're not aware And sometimes even us realtors and dealers are not necessarily aware that that's a part of the guidance that we are to be providing, so that their brochures and whatever marketing collateral they're using have the necessary information. And, you know, if you step back and remember why the REB implemented that, or perhaps some of the people who brought that act into place, it's really to protect the public. And I've actually seen where development has had a situation where some of the plans were not made available to the public for inspection. And once persons have purchased and have come into possession of the property, there tends to be a little, or there was an, instance where the developer made a change to the common area spaces. And it turned out that in the selling of the development, some of these requirements were not made available for the prospective purchasers to review and to have information to make effective decision-making on whether they'd like to purchase into a new development. So I thank you, Mr. Vassiano, for mentioning this. And I look forward to the REB determining how and when a public awareness campaign can be made available as far as the do's and don'ts, and how it is even us as realtors and dealers can be in compliance. Because at the end of the day, that's what everybody wants to do. But just from a vantage point of a realtor looking on social media and in traditional media, I see some brokerages adhering to the requirements and some are not. And it has nothing to do with them being large or small, because the rule is the rule. The act is the act. So I'm happy to hear your response, Mr. Vassiano.
Very well, Ms. Beard. Thank you.
All right. Going back to our written questions in the chat. I hear someone asking if you are only collecting rental deposits to take out your commission and pay remainder to landlord, do you still need a client's account just for this? Mr. Pladley.
Thanks, Sanan. Thanks for that question. Right. Again, once you're going to, there's a need for you to hold a client's money for any period of time. You are required to ensure you establish a client's account and you keep that money in the client's account, right? And as the legislation indicated, the holding of that money, placing that money into a client account, it should be without delay. So once you're going to collect client's money, I would implore you to establish a client's account and ensure that that money is placed into the client's account until you are ready to hand it over to the client.
Okay, thank you very much. Debbie McKenzie, will you provide us with your question, please?
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes. Good morning.
Okay, my question is simple and real quick. I've been on and off the meeting, so I don't know if I missed this. When you pay your annual license, I paid mine at Scotia. I gave them the required information, my license number and stuff. Do we still have to email the receipt to REB?
That would definitely assist us. It's not quite mandatory, but it would definitely assist us. So we encourage persons to email us proof of payment.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We have again Andrea Stolz, who wishes to ask a question. Andrea, we're not hearing you at all, so we're going to move on again. All right, we're going to the written questions. And the statement is made here. I don't see where the question, well, let us see. Clients are frustrated with the time to complete sales transactions. How can REB assist in the process by engaging the other stakeholders, viz. The banks, Tiger's office, and client attorneys? Yeah.
Yes, answer that question. But I think the association is handling that matter. It's an age-old problem. And but I know the association is dealing with that matter at hand in terms of the length of transactions and so on. The remit of the real estate board is different from that of the association.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Chairman. All right. Let me go to another individual. Gail, do you still have your hand up? This is Gail Peart.
Yes, I have a new question. This
Yes,
one is
go ahead.
directed to, I guess, maybe Dr. Beale and whomever would like to address this. So I saw the performance goals for, or what to be specific, the measurement of the transformational process, for which under performance, I see consistently high pass rates and client satisfaction as two prongs of measurement, which is great. So I happen to be in a cohort for which, as I was told, the REB had the largest in its history. So when I saw this part about consistently high pass rates, I would love someone to respond to what methods and basis and policies are in place currently or in the future to address the increased applicants attaching or applying to be attached. If it is, the goal is to have consistently high pass rates, what would be the policy review, or what would be the policy? Because I see currently that brokerages or a dealer at a brokerage can only supervise up to 2 people. And I'm pretty sure the board has this as a topic or probably has addressed it before, but I just use the opportunity to knock on it since Dr. Beale outlined that's one of the goals in the transformational process. So is there any way that you could provide an update to us here in terms of how RETI and REB are looking to address this type of policy? And lastly, mention was made of responding to customers, including realtors who are your customers, internal customers, about using a timely manner to respond. Is there any way we could pinpoint a time period? So for example, realtors are required to submit responses to offers ideally within 3 to 5 days or business days. What can us as customers, as realtors and dealers expect of the REB customer service as a response, whether in writing or in person, to be considered a timely response?
All right, I believe Dr. Beale, you had asked Dr. Beale. But can
it's actually twofold for her at the RET level and then at the REB level, because the policy would be, as I understand it, at the REB level. Isn't that so, Mr. James, Chairman James?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Dr. Beale.
Yes. So, Ms. Peart, thank you for your question. It's quite a valid question, in fact. Truth be told, as you have rightfully pointed out, it straddles both at the RETI level as well as at the policy level, specifically our board of directors. Now, in terms of our testing and assessment strategy, we do know that it is something that we have to revise. However, I'm not able to provide you with specific answers at this point in time because it is something that is actually currently being discussed. So I would prefer if our chairman and our CEO who are operating at the policy level to provide a more in-depth insight to address the question that you have articulated.
Thanks so very much, Dr. Beale. And so that particular question is something that we are very far advanced in terms of our internal discussions, and the industry should expect an announcement in the short to medium term with respect to the number of attachments permitted.
Right.
So the other part of the question had to do with the timely manner. Is there a reasonable expectation to ask for a timeline? So for example, is it 1 week after submitting a written letter? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 3 weeks? Is there a guideline that you can give us as opposed to just being very, vague in saying timely manner?
Well, with respect to our customer service function, we have increased the number of customer service agents that actually have on the location, and we'd prefer to treat each situation based on their particular nuances. There are times when we respond within 24 hours, and then there are times when, based on the situation as presented to us, it might take up to a week. It's something that is we consistently have under review, and it's something that which our expanded customer service facility will address. However, it is a bit difficult for me to give a generic timeline outside. There are specific issues that might warrant different times or a different length of time to reach a solution. So, for example, a simple query as in respect of payments, and if payment is received or not, that way is answered or responded in less than 24 hours. However, there are issues with concerning license and license fees and application that those might take a bit longer. So my honest question is that we're constantly seeking to improve our customer service function, how we relate, how we interact, and we intend to improve our turnaround times.
I appreciate your response, but we have different categories that we can put in terms of just making a generic response. So so if somebody just does a general letter, irrespective of, it being something subject to an investigation or so, what's generally the response time? I'm not speaking about payment, which you answered, and it is true, especially when you use the client portal, the response and the support is very efficient. But, the other methods tend to fall short. So you may not necessarily be in a position to respond, no, but it'll be helpful, as an organization and serving us as clients, because after all, as I saw in one of the measurements, it says client satisfaction. It gives a mutual understanding in terms of expectation when something is submitted. Generally speaking, we do understand exceptions may take longer, but if that could be taken under review, okay? Thank you.
As a chief executive officer, my personal goal is to ensure that I respond to an email or communication within 24 hours. And we're working to extend that to our general staff, but it's just that I am unable today to provide you a specific response. But we tend to, we try to respond as soon as possible to all queries.
Okay, great. Just, would you mind maybe even subject after this session, if you could make available everybody's updated email, or more specifically, the new CEO, that would be helpful. Okay, thanks so much for this session. I appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you very much, man.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Spirit. Very lively participant indeed. We're going back to the question and answers in the chat. Do you reissue the registration certificate in cases where it has been lost or was never provided to the dealer or salesman? So Brown?
Yes, if it has never been issued and the registration certificate is made available, then we can issue immediately If it is lost or misplaced, we ask for declaration. There is a fee for replacement, and we can make it available for you immediately. Say within 3 to 5 working days.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. I have another question in the chat, and I will be going back to the raised hands. But let us ask this one. Well, I see Ms. Beale dealing with that. Let us go to the raised hands. Donna Chin, can you provide us with your question, please?
Yes, Mr. Norton, good morning.
Good morning.
I was just asking, I'm new to the industry and feeling my way through, and I'm would add attached to a very good agency which gives me a lot of support. But what I'm seeing as having just done a transaction with the customer information form, that we have to do our due diligence as the sales agent and my dealer, and it goes to the client's attorney and to the purchaser's attorney. And they are also doing their due diligence. They're now under the umbrella of the Proceeds of Crime Act. And if it has to go to a evaluator, there's another, that's another stakeholder that requires client information. I'm just saying, because of some feedback I got from my own client, it seems a little onerous, so much in terms of their information that is being processed at different levels of the transaction. Is there some way that in which it could be centrally done, like some central bank where the information, I don't know, is this realistic to expect?
Very good question. Let me send that question through to our manager for the real estate board inspectorate to see if he can give us a good response. Mr. Pladley.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that question, and I'm happy to answer it. Now, please remember that the customer information form, the information is confidential, and as a real estate dealer, you're required to collect information for your client. So it is important that you identify your client and collect information for your client. There is an exemption, and that exemption is where if your client is referred to you from another reporting entity, and that reporting entity can indicate to you that they have already completed the client's due diligence and complete the customer information form, and can provide it to you in writing that that person is their client and they have already completed or carry out the due diligence on the individual, and you get that in writing, then you can exempt collecting that, asking your client to complete that customer information form. That is the only way I know legally that exemption can be done for a reporting entity, right? So it is for you to identify your client. If the client is referred, then you can exempt and get it in writing, right? Otherwise, then I don't know of any other way legally that can be done, or the information can be stored anywhere else. It is confidential, and it is a requirement of you as a reporting entity under the Proceeds of Crime Act to collect that information and keep it confidential.
Thank you, Mr. Pladley. Thank you.
You're muted, Mr. Norton.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Ms. Chin. We have quite a number of questions being posted. Our cutoff time is actually 12:30. Peradventure, we would give another 5 minutes or so. And if it is that we haven't been able to address your question, I'm going to ask that you utilize our emails to send us those questions so that we can respond to you by email. All right, so if we don't get through to your questions are critical to us, they are important to us, and so we want you to write to us so that we can respond to you. All right, we're going to go back to the chat just now. And someone has asked, as a dealer licensed to do sales, rentals, leases, and property management, can I advertise that I do valuations if I have completed the LEVS course and do valuations with another company who is licensed to do so? I would want to throw that at our COO or Mr. Akeil Pladley, the manager of the Real Estate Board's Inspectorate.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. We always implore dealers to operate within the auspices of their license. So under Section 10, when a license is actually issued, it's a breach to operate outside the areas for which you are licensed. So if you don't have a license within the areas of appraisals, we would advise you not to do so. So the particular person who would have asked, they would have been licensed to do sales, rental, leases, and property management. So those are the specific areas for which they can practice in. The practice outside of those areas will constitute a criminal offense. And if found guilty, there may be fines and/or imprisonment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. Neville Townsend has a question.
Yeah, thank you again, Mr. Norton. And the era of continuing education, question is it possible for REB to send out information to individual dealers who need to complete a continuing education before licensing time? I think that's a question that I have on my mind since last year.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Townsend. I will prefer an answer for you, just as I am off here with that particular issue. We do, in fact, when it is that we are doing these courses, the CPD courses, especially the mandatory CPDs that we offer, it is usual for us to send out invitations in a general way to everyone within the industry. Those individuals who would not have done the course would have still seen it. Many of you still calling to ask us if you have done it already, and we provide you with a response. But we also look at the list and identify those specific individuals, whether dealer or salesman, and we send them a direct email to indicate to them the specific CPD that they have not completed. So we do send out general emails as well as targeted emails to individuals to complete those CPDs. I trust that answers your question, Mr. Townsend.
Then yeah, definitely. I'll definitely check my email if I get one, because I'm not. I think the last one I did was 2019, something like that, 2020. Okay. So I need to double check if I have completed everything. Thank you very much.
And if you're having an issue, sir, kindly write to us at rhdsupport@reb.gov.jm. I will put the email address in the chat so that persons can see it. And if you have any issues in that regard, you can always address it to me. My name is Ainsworth Norton, or preferably you can address it to Dr. Tina Beale, and the matter will be speedily addressed. All right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We have a question for Mr. Pladley. As valuers, we were informed some time ago that a valuer was not required to collect CIF from all clients. So hearing today that it is now mandated, is that a recent development?
Right. Thanks for that question. I saw it in the chat. I was going to respond to it, but
okay.
I heard that this information was sent out to valuers. I am yet to see any documentation as to who gave that instruction, where it comes from. And if you can recall, when I was, I think I was answering a question or during my presentation, I said that that is out there, but as all valuers are real estate dealers, and all real estate dealers under the designation order are reporting entities. So it means that from a legislative perspective, you fall within the remit of providing your reports or carrying out your due diligence as is required under the Proceeds of Crime Act, right? I don't know of anyone who can simply decide to exempt you as a real estate dealer from carrying out that level of customer due diligence, right? So I'm yet to see where that instruction comes from. So from my point of view, certainly the real estate board I have not seen any documentation, and of course I've communicated with the Financial Investigation Division, and they are yet to provide me with any documentation as to who made that decision or where it comes from. So for now, the instruction is that as a valuer, you're a real estate dealer, and you are required to collect that information until when I see something from a legal perspective to guide us accordingly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pladley. I have a question here that is rather interesting, and in the interest of time, I'm just going to allow this particular question and one more question from the raised hands. This concerns, I'm going to ask two questions in one, right? We have been having increased incidents of scamming, wherein our listing photos are being screenshot and used especially on Jamaica classifieds online by unscrupulous individuals to scam the public. I have personally reported same to the REB, and I am aware other agents have reported same, both to the police and REB. Is there a campaign afoot to sensitize the public? This is a fast-growing trend, scammers successfully getting away with the unsuspecting public's deposits, especially on rentals. And the other question would have been, are we going to see more activities around unlicensed practitioners? There seems to be an infestation of them in central Jamaica. That sounds like I'd want our CEO to just respond to that first section.
Could you repeat the question, Mr. Norton, the first?
All right, it says, when we have been having increased incidents of scamming, wherein our listing photos are being screenshot and used especially on Jamaica classifieds online by unscrupulous individuals to scam the public. I have personally reported same to the REB, and I am aware other agents have reported same, both to the police and to the REB. Is there a campaign afoot to sensitize the public? This is a fast-growing trend, scammers successfully getting away with the unsuspecting public's deposits, especially on rentals.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Norton. And so we know that theft is really a police matter, and that is outside of the remit of the real estate board. What we know that we are in the process of doing is we are finalizing a number of campaigns which we intend to take to the public with respect to our services that we offer and the requirements of the public and practitioners in the industry.
All right. Thank you, sir. The other section would have been a question posed by Alivan Dakers about unlicensed practitioners and whether we are going to see more activities from the board regarding same.
Well, yes, go ahead, Chair.
I just want to encourage all practitioners, if you're aware of anyone who is practicing real estate without a license, report it to the REB, report to any of our inspectors. Okay, it's unfair for you to pay to how many years either at college or at RETI, and then you pay a license fee and someone is just go about and practicing real estate. So it's important that you share the information with us. The REB don't know everything, what is happening out there, but you're aware of what is happening on the ground. You need to report it, okay? Of course, the REB will continue its campaign to advise people. So if you're going to do any real estate transaction, speak to a licensed real estate agent / realtor. Okay, so we'll do our part, but you need to help us to help you to stamp this out.
Not hearing you.
My humblest apologies. That's the issue when you're trying to haggle between. You see, I got even kicked off at just now. Aye. Sonia, I'm not even seeing what I was looking at. Hold on.
Hi, good morning, Suneno.
Yes, go ahead, please.
All right, so my question is regarding the licensing fee. Basically, the licensing period is between March to April, correct? However, the REB, it doesn't seem like this is being explained sufficiently because it seems to be a little unfair when new agents come in, say, for example, in January, and we're being asked to pay this licensing fee, and we're paying this licensing fee in full in January, and then a couple months later, we're being reminded again that for the upcoming year, we have to pay this licensing fee again.
Oh, sorry. May I take that one? Okay. So I think we're talking about two different things. The fee that you pay in January, that's your fee for the association. That's Realtors Association. That's the fee that you pay in January. This is your licensing fee. This is the fee that allows you to operate as a real estate agent. So it's two different. So this will, of course, moving forward, these are things that will be explained when you're doing a RETI course. So you fully understand the different fees involved when you decide to become an agent. I don't think it is.
Okay, Mr. James. No, that's the RAJ fee, which was completely separate and paid. What I'm talking about is the REB licensing fee as a new agent coming in. So this situation actually personally affected me. I started in January, paid that fee in January, and now for the upcoming licensing period, I'll have to pay that fee again this month.
I fully understand. So we are aware of it, and what we're doing, we're actually in the process of speaking to the Ministry of Finance, so we can prorate the fees. It is not allowed now, but it's something that the board is speaking to the Ministry of Finance to do. So if you say you've finished the course in November, you can actually, instead of paying 1 year, you can actually pay half year. But we have not been given the permission to do so as yet, but it is under consideration.
Okay, thank you for your response. I'm happy to know that it's something that is being considered for the future. I have personally been affected by this situation, and I also know other new agents who have started who are being affected by it as well.
You're welcome.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this webinar. I trust that you would have been informed. I trust that you would have paid keen attention to what the presenters would have provided you, the level of information. We have also paid keen attention to what your questions have pointed to, and we are looking to see what the questions you'll be posting to us via our emails so that we can address all your concerns in a timely manner. So we have to leave it there for now. The recording for this session will be made available to you via YouTube, and the link will be shared via your emails. So thank you, our attendees and presenters, our panelists. I want to thank specifically our CEO and the chairman, Mr. Phillip Chambers and Mr. Andrew James, for taking the time out to show that they really want to have the public's interest at heart. They do have the public interest at heart, and they have demonstrated it with their presence just now. This is where policy meets administration. And we just want to tell you, thank you very much for attending, and please do join us for our next webinar, which will be hosted tomorrow, the details of which have been posted online. So you can go in and register for it and be a part of the process once again. Do enjoy the rest of your day. And from the REB CSC to you, have a pleasant afternoon.